legionaries had to do many daily chores to contribute to the community running smoothly. These daily tasks came on top of their primary mission, which was military training. Even in peaceful times, it was imperative that soldiers stay disciplined, maintain their equipment, and stay in top physical shape to always be ready for combat if necessary.
Training was a requirement for legionaries in the army. Even though it wasn't a regular occurrence and some soldiers might never experience it, combat was the task for which they always had to be ready. So weapons and physical training were mandatory and ordered by officers. Thanks to archaeological discoveries or texts, we know that soldiers spent a considerable amount of time training, what was called exercitatio, an individual form of training that mainly consisted of acquiring techniques for handling swords and spears, but they also needed to train to work together. Soldiers had to know how to set up tactical formations to prevail over the adversary by acting as one military body.
During their training, legionaries sometimes used unusual props.
So here we've got a young ox skull. So this is a beast that's only 2 or 3 years old, and then they've butchered the animal, and they've probably hit it here on the head to poleaxe it. And then they've mounted it on a pole at the back here, and they've used it for target practice. And look at this. This has been absolutely peppered with everything from spears to ballista bolts, which are fired by an artillery piece, and that's the sort of square puncture marks there. And then the much smaller ones are arrowheads. So they've used absolutely everything. They've thrown everything at this poor animal after it's died, reusing all of the animal for their purposes. And of course, the Roman army is only as good as its training and its practice. And this shows you just the level of detail and ferocity they used when they're practicing. And this is a sort of template for a British skull, for the people that they're fighting against in northern Britain.
In addition to military exercise, legionaries needed to have the resistance required to walk long distances.
Walking was part of a soldier's daily life. Roman army units were expected to be mobile throughout Roman history. And this was a constant aspect of Roman conquests as they took place further and further away. So the notion of travel was truly linked to the very spirit of the army and the empire. Even once the military units had stabilized during imperial times, soldiers were still susceptible of being sent to another part of the empire, or even outside of it, to fight a war. Roman soldiers trained to endure long walks, which served as an asset for them to surprise their adversaries by rapidly reaching a place before the adversary took it over. This tactic was crucial in the eyes of the Roman command.
When traveling, legionaries were equipped with a traveling kit called sarcinae, good for ensuring several days of camp. A Live History collective has recreated the kit and tested it in real-life situations during experimental walks.
It's important that we take these walks with the same type of equipment they had, so replicas of archaeological pieces, the same type of equipment they wore 2,000 years ago. Every item is metal or leather, and of course, every hiker knows this. The most important items are the shoes. These legionary shoes are period replicas based on archaeological sources we've been able to find. The ones I'm wearing today are clichés, open sandals with 60 to 80 nails under the sole to provide perfect grip on all types of terrain, dirt, fields and woods.
The sarcinae, weapons and shield, weighed around 40 kilograms. How could the legionaries carry such a load? What physical toll did these walks take on their bodies? Experimental archaeology helps us to explore these questions. Christelle Jaffré, a specialist in sports biomechanics at the University of Amiens, is a contributor to the experiment.
In the field, we'll be using tools that I'd say are somewhat borrowed from the sports world. For example, we are going to use a rail system that will help us observe steps and calculate stride distances and see if the right and left feet move at the same speed. Thanks to photoelectric cells, we can grasp the notion of speed, since we're going to set up a timer. And thanks to a simple little video, we can begin to understand certain biomechanical parameters.
Before setting off and during the walk, Christelle takes saliva samples to measure hormones. They enable the analysis of cortisol and testosterone variations, two hormones for which levels vary according to the stress and fatigue generated by the effort of walking.
Vitesse! Une doigt ordinaire admet! Venire, pergere, dex! Dex! Dex in dex! 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 Dex in dex!
The legion marched in step. There were two paces, short and long, which regulated the speed at which they moved. The normal pace was 6 kilometers per hour, and the accelerated version, applied in case of emergency, went up to 8.
Dex! 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 Dex in dex!
The average distance covered in a day's walk was about 30 kilometers, interspersed with breaks.
Scuta dorsum!
To take the experiment all the way, the group of walking legionaries had the food and drink from that time. The energy consumption for a legionary on a campaign was around 5,500 calories per day. Today, only top athletes or hard-working manual laborers reach those kinds of numbers. Roman legionaries probably knew a thing or two about the art of carrying a heavy load without straining their backs. But the texts don't mention anything about this practical knowledge.
We're going to place ourselves in probably the same environment as the legionaries, in what we'd call their ecological situation, and this will give us the first clues regarding their actual walks and how they travelled with their equipment at that time, so in the 2nd and 3rd centuries. Go ahead. Next, please. Next, go ahead. In terms of locomotion, we're going to be able to look at stride, the regularity of their steps, and therefore see if the equipment, and more importantly, the way they carried their load, might have affected their stride and the way they walked, which could have tired them out excessively.
One of the walking legionaries went to the Arrêt Métier Motion Dynamics Laboratory for a unique experiment. The researchers are setting parameters in the space where the legionary will be moving around. Then, captors are placed on the parts of the body where movements will be observed. Christelle Jaffré hopes that this experiment will complete her observations of the legionaries' carrying techniques.
I would like to know the effects of equipment overload on posture and its consequences on the way legionaries walked.
Okay, with the system we have here, we're able to obtain data on posture, mainly on the joint angles, and in addition to that, with these platforms we can measure effort, which will enable us to potentially understand the weight on the joints and the efforts within the joints.
We'll compare, for example, back posture. Is it more forwards or backwards leaning? What's the posture of the pelvis? What's the orientation of the head when walking, depending on whether it's carrying weight or not?
Researchers record an initial motion capture test with no load.
You can immediately see that his gait isn't regular, it's atypical.
You can see that with the sandals, there is no rolling movement on the foot.
The second recording is made carrying a shield in its slip cover on the back.
Okay, stop there and then turn around and go the other way. Go ahead, walk.
Then the researchers observe him carrying the shield on his side.
What's that? It looks like maybe he's compensating.
Yes, exactly.
Mike, how heavy is your shield, please?
It's 4.5 kilos.
4.5.
Right, so there's a 10-kilo difference between the left and right step, which could potentially be due to compensating for the heavy load on one side.
Yes. And we have to consider the fact that they repeated this exercise for several hours and for a certain distance. So that could also have an impact.
An extra 10% load on one side.
Okay, let's try one last combination. Carrying the shield plus the kit.
By identifying carrying techniques that were less tiring and less damaging for the skeleton, experimental archaeology may well unlock the secrets of the tireless Roman legionary walker. After a long walk, and once they had put down their kits, legionaries still had to muster up the energy to set up temporary camp. The hardships and chores endured every day, as well as community life, contributed to friendships forming. After his first 2 years of service, young recruit Titus Curius Linus had integrated into military life. He had not yet experienced real combat, but he continued his training with his unit mates. As for his mentor, Caius Marcius Salmorius, he had 2 years of service left before retiring.